And I think back then, was in the late 70s, the second language in Portugal was French. I think there were not
Was
that many
French.
people speaking English like now. So you guys could keep yourselves somehow secret, no?
Yeah, that's
Was that
something
was
that's
that a
something
tool
that's
you used, like as being a gay
yeah,
couple and speaking
yeah,
English? That would be great. You could say like nasty things about, or you can say beautiful things to each other, and I won't
absolutely.
be afraid.
Yeah, that's all changed though, because I've noticed that over the last 4 or 5 years, for instance, when you take a train between Lisbon and Porto or Coimbra
Yeah.
and Porto, wherever, there are certain periods of the year, everything from like April till October or November, when most of the people on the train are foreigners. And so they
Yeah.
speak English. And so now when Alex and I want to say something more personal and more secret, we speak in Portuguese, even though we're living in Portugal. It's insane. It's totally
Insane.
crazy.
Yeah. That's
But
insane.
and when you walk into a restaurant now in Lisbon or Porto or probably other cities, at least in the downtown area, they just speak to you in English. You know, it doesn't matter if you're Portuguese. You walk in and they say, "Hi, sir. How many people are in your
Really?
party?"
I didn't
Yeah,
know that.
yeah. Look, what's happening in Portugal is amazing. I just realized this. All the cities are splitting in two. There's a part of the city that's just for tourists, like
Hmm.
in Lisbon, the Chiado. It's just for
Yeah.
tourists. There are no Portuguese people there. And then there's a part of the city that's for the Portuguese, like Alvalade or
Hmm.
Estrela. And in Porto, it's the same thing. And so there's this phenomenon that's happening is there are two separate cities in Lisbon and two separate cities in Porto and in Braga and in Guimarães, and they don't overlap. They used to overlap. Tourists used to be mixing with Portuguese people and vice versa everywhere.
Yeah.
And now, it's disturbing to me, there's no overlap. There's
Yeah.
no overlap. You walk into certain stores in downtown Porto, the person serving you isn't Portuguese, Nepalese, Brazilian, and I have nothing against them, but they're not
Yeah.
Portuguese. Nepalese, Brazilian, wherever. And the person who walks into the store is from the UK or Ireland or Brazil or Peru or Russia. And so they talk English. It's not Portugal. That's the other thing. These people think they're visiting Portugal.
Hmm.
If they stay in
They
the
haven't.
tourist areas, it's sort of Portugal. It's like Portugal, but it's not Portugal. And it's like these Americans occasionally write me because they know I've been here for years, and they say, "We're thinking of moving to Portugal. Where would you suggest?" We're thinking of moving to Cascais, which is this fancy suburb of Lisbon. And I say,
Yeah.
"Well, if you want to move to Portugal, don't move to Cascais because it's not Portugal. It's a foreign enclave." Yeah, I'm not sure they like me saying that, but it's true.
It's true. Yeah. So it's almost like a segregation. Like the Portuguese feel uncomfortable to go to areas that are completely taken by tourism, and the
Yeah.
tourists don't get to see real Portugal. They just get to see some fake representation of the country that doesn't really tell what the country is, and it's not working neither for the tourists nor for the residents. Like it's no one's benefit at the end of the day. Maybe some people are making money out of it. That's it.
Yeah, I think that's the reason why it's happening is some people are making a lot of money. Um, I think eventually the mayors of Porto, Lisbon, Braga, Guimarães, Faro, they're going to have to change something because it's become too much. If you go to downtown Porto now, like the Rua das Flores,
Yeah.
there's nothing Portuguese there, and the Rua das Flores is probably the most beautiful street in Porto. And it's so sad. You walk down this gorgeous street, and all the stores are selling T-shirts and fake Portuguese tiles and
Yeah.
balloons, and the people selling them aren't Portuguese, and the people buying them aren't Portuguese, and nobody's speaking Portuguese, and the food isn't Portuguese. And you're like, well, what happened? What happened?
Yeah.
And I think this happened without a lot of people understanding that the country was changing so much. And because so much money is involved, tourism brings an enormous amount of money. And I'm not against that. I'm happy it helps the economy. But there has to be a limit.